Atmosphere, man, was crazy.
Yeah,
Now
man.
we gonna get to the entirety of college football. The number one team in the country,
Yes, sir.
Alabama lost, and that was big for college football. I'm gonna tell you teams that I thought that benefited. Number one, I thought it benefited Cincinnati
Yep.
because now it's forcing Alabama to win the SEC championship. Because if Bama loses the SEC championship,
They're not making
well, let me say this: if they go to the SEC championship, because there's still a lot of football left to be played
it. Right.
in the SEC West.
Right.
So if they make it to the SEC championship game, they have to beat Georgia in order to make the playoffs. Because I don't think they're going to put a two-loss Alabama in. Uh,
It's going to be hard.
oh yeah, it's going to be tough. But now a Cincinnati who would have been scratching and clawing to get in, even if they would have been undefeated. Because it was a possibility that if Bama didn't lose, you was gonna get Bama and Georgia in the college football playoffs, no matter what, right? If they would have made it to the SEC championship game undefeated, but then with the Big Ten being so tough and how it is right now, you could have possibly had two Big Ten teams go as well.
Right.
But Alabama loses, now Cincinnati has more life. Now a team that in a conference that we weren't talking about making the playoffs, the Big 12 in Oklahoma, now they have another lifeline, right? In the last team, well, I said the last team, but the last conference, I think is the Big 10. Like I just mentioned, they was gonna have two teams come in. And while we're talking about Oklahoma, how big was that comeback win against Texas?
And listen here, in college football in 2021,
Man.
you better watch every single game you possibly can from start to finish, because the same way these teams are getting these double-digit leads, they blowing them joints like it ain't nothing. I mean, even when you look at the Bama Texas A&M game, I think Bama was down 24-10 at one
Texas
point.
A&M blew their lead.
Blew their lead. So it's a lot of football. It's always a lot of football left. And when you're dealing with these young men who can get it going the way they do, you got to stay locked in, because it's just been crazy. And it's cool to see as a fan, because you really have no idea what's going to happen. Like week in and week out. I know we're hard on the ACC and we give them a lot of slack, but we have to. That's the conference we're talking about. But that Red River shootout, man, that was probably one of the most exciting games they've ever had in their history. I think it was the highest scoring game in their history too, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't remember. I gotta look it up. But man, that when I mean a shootout, it was a shootout.
Yeah,
it was very interesting. And the thing that I thought the difference maker in that game was Caleb Williams, the freshman, coming in and taking over for Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler
turnovers been killing this year.
Well, he had an interception where I don't know if it was miscommunication with his tight end, but the tight end went on a corner route. He threw it like a glance route, 5-step post route, and got an interception. Then he came back and fumbled the football. But as soon as they inserted Caleb Williams in the game, the young man has a 66-yard rushing touchdown on a crucial down for Oklahoma, which kind of sparked him now. So with this Oklahoma team, and I always say, I thought this year they need to run the football a lot better. They got two good backs in Kennedy Brooks and then a transfer from Tennessee, Eric Gray, right? So now early in that game, they wasn't rushing the football effectively because of Spencer Rattler. He's not a run threat. You bring Caleb Williams in the game, not a defense, Cody. You know this, not a defense got to account for one more. You got to account for +1 in that run game now. So now Kennedy Brooks has a monster day, right? This rushing game has a monster day for Oklahoma. A lot of different things. Now that run game, now that pass game's opening up even more. So I just think Caleb Williams brings a different dynamic to Oklahoma. And I don't know what Lincoln Riley is thinking about. If he's thinking about putting Spencer Rattler back in, I'm going to tell you right now, Link, I'm going to take you. I don't even know you, but Link, I'm going to call you Link. Link! Don't you put Spencer Rattler back in there at quarterback.
That was going to be my next question. Who would you go with moving forward?
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams,
just because he gives our offense a different dimension, right? And now defensively, you have to prepare a different way if you're a defensive coordinator or you're an opposing team. Plus, I'm going off the momentum of my team and what my team is feeding off of. Right. My team is, I mean, you think about the things that led up to this point. You got the crowd chanting for Caleb, and I've never been a fan of a coach make a decision because what the crowd is saying.
Right.
But you had that incident go on about 2 weeks ago, a week ago, but with Spencer Rattler. Then you have Spencer Rattler coming to this showdown with Texas, the biggest rivalry in your school's history against that opponent, Texas, Oklahoma, and he doesn't play well.
Right.
Then you make the change, the backup plays well, right? Yeah. So I'm a fan of just riding that young man's coattail. And I think when it gets to college football playoff time, I think the committee's going to look at that as well. Okay, right. Well, Oklahoma early on with Spencer Rattler wasn't the team that we wanted to see in the playoffs. But Oklahoma with quarterback Caleb Williams is a team we see that can contend for a national championship and deserves a spot in this college football playoffs. So now I think everyone's going to be looking at Oklahoma if Caleb Williams is that starter, which he should be. I mean, as I roll my eyes, I don't know what the debate would be. They're going to be looking at from this point forward, how does this Oklahoma team perform with Caleb Williams at the helm?
I'll tell you one thing. Neither one of us know what Lincoln Riley is going to do, but Spencer Rattler, he better stay ready because we've seen all throughout this year, you could be starting, have some mishaps, lose your job, and get another opportunity. So stay ready, and we'll see what happens.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready.
I want to let you guys know about Field of 12 Media, a brand new podcast and digital media network covering college football by the people that know it best. Brought to you by Shoot Your Shot Productions, the folks behind the Field of 68. The Field of 12 gives you insight into the game we all love by the people that have lived it. Trevor Knight and Bryce Petty covering the Big 12. Joshua Perry and Christian Hackenberg are covering the Big 10. Yogi Roth and Ted Robinson on the Pac-12. And of course, we'll continue to be your go-to source on everything ACC football and more. Check the links below to find the rest of our shows. The Field of 12, where college football happens.
The next thing I want to talk about is, I got to touch on this quickly. I got to touch on Lane Kiffin really quick, man, because for some reason, and I got to touch on these fourth down decisions. I don't mind you going for it on fourth down. They were 4 for 5 against Arkansas on fourth downs. But the one they didn't get, Cody, they went for it at their own 34-yard line. And guess what happens after that possession? Arkansas kicks a field goal. They kick a field goal, though, right? So that's 3 points right there. You're basically giving away if you don't get it on fourth down. Right. The week before, he went for it on fourth down at his own 31 against Bama. It came back to Hunter. Now, I'm going to reiterate, I don't mind him going for it on fourth down. But I think it's situational when you go for it on fourth down. I don't think you go for it on fourth down on your own 31 or your own 34-yard line. I think you putting your team in a position. And if they would have lost that game, if Arkansas would have got that 2-point conversion, that probably would have been the headlines.
Yep.
Because Arkansas would have won. That's 3 points you basically gave them. Mm-hmm. So I love the confidence that Lane Kiffin has in his football team. And I love how he believes in his guys. And we had a guy on ESPN Radio, one of the offensive linemen, come on and saying that he loves that he has that confidence in the offense. But at the same time, there's a time and a place for everything. Your own 31 and your own 34 is not that place. Unless it's your last drive of the game, you're trying to go win a football game. That's the only time you do that because you're putting your teams in harm's way. But I'm glad Lane Kiffin won that football game because the narrative would have been different. The story would have been different if they would not have won that football game. And last thing, Iowa, bro. We got to touch on Iowa a little bit before we go. Iowa, man.
I don't like Big Ten football, man.
Iowa, man. Like, Iowa beat Penn State, man. They beat Penn State. And listen, they can't be worried about injuries that happen, but Penn State quarterback Sean Clifford getting knocked out of that football game. The game changed. The game 100% completely changed.
50 yards after that.
Listen, they couldn't even move the ball at all with their backup quarterback. And Iowa was just one of those teams where you look at them. Are they going to be the most athletic? No. Are they going to be the fastest? No. Are they going to have spectacular plays? No. But they're going to be well coached. They're going to do what their coach asked them. They're going to play team defense. No. They're most of the time, they're not going to turn the football over. And they're going to force you to turn the football over. Iowa right now in turnovers in college football is crazy to me. Penn State just had 4 of them. And I said going into that game, if Penn State won an opportunity to win this game, they can't turn the football over. They had 4 turnovers.
Man, the game was very simple, bro. Iowa, not only did they win the field position battle, they won the penalty battle, the
Yep.
turnover battle, and the explosive plays battle. Their punter pinned Penn State inside their team 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
Right? And we've talked about it all year. These offenses, especially in the Big Ten, these offenses, if they can't hit a home run on you, they can't consistently drive the ball up and down the field and put points on the board, preferably a touchdown.
And it's even worse when you have a backup quarterback in there.
Then you don't even have your main gunslinger in there. And man, did that kid look did that young man look overwhelmed? You know, it looked like the game was happening very fast for him.
Oh yeah, he wasn't ready for that moment.
It was a big stage, but I was as solid as they come. And what we're seeing in college football right now, there's nothing wrong with being disciplined and being consistent, because hell, that'll have you beating 95% of these teams that we've seen play this year. Because most teams is beating themselves. It's not their opponent beating them, it's themselves, it's within. So I don't see Iowa beating themselves now. They may come up against somebody at some point that just overwhelms them, but they're not going to beat themselves, that's for sure.
And for Iowa, man, I think the hardest team they have left on their schedule is Nebraska. And then they're going to, in my eyes, I think they're going to go to the Big Ten championship game undefeated. And if they lose that game, against another top, I say 7 or 8 opponent, they have an argument to be in the college football playoffs.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We're going to see how it's going to go. But with Alabama losing, I think that 2 Big Ten team, yeah, you know what I mean? So we're going to see how it goes. I mean, you have Cincinnati, you have Oklahoma, and that's if Oklahoma can continue to go undefeated, though. We don't know. But I love what we're seeing in college football. Last thing we got to get to, man, 2 games in the ACC this week that I think that are huge. Pitt versus Virginia Tech. Pitt still only has 1 loss. I think Pitt is favored by 5.5. I think the over-under in that game is 57.5. I'm going to go with Pitt in this one, and I'm going to take the points. I think they're going to win by more than 5.5, and I'm going to go with the over because Pitt scoring points, boy. Pitt, Kenny Pickett doing his thing. Who you got in this one?
I'm definitely going with Pitt, and I'm gonna go over too because I expect them to score a whole lot of points. But I'm expecting Virginia Tech to score, but I don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be.
It's more so you're expecting Pitt to do most of the scoring.
Yes, okay, I'm putting most of the onus on Pitt, but I definitely got Pitt winning. I mean, they're averaging 50 plus a game. I don't see that stopping this weekend.
All right, so I'm going to go last game. We got NC State versus Boston College. NC State is favored by 2.5. I think the over-under is 51.5. I'm going to go with NC State. I think they're going to win by more than 2.5. And I'm going to go with the under in this one.
I'm going to go against you, my brother. I'm going with Boston College after that heartbreak a couple weeks ago against Clemson. I think they get back on track. I think Zay Flowers has a big day. They're going to have to stop that 2-headed rushing attack.
Yes, sir.
NC State, they're going to have to figure that out. I don't know how they plan to stop it, but I'm gonna go against the grain and go with BC. And I'm going to go – you went over or under?
I went under in this one.
I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over.
Cool. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 8 in the books. The One-on-Ones podcast. Thank y'all for listening. Be sure to join us next week for episode 9 and whatever's on your mind.
Yes, sir. Peace out.